Perfect song. Perfect song. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
God is good.
All the time.
God is. The title of this morning's message is Getting Intimate with the Infinite. That's a little busy, isn't it? But the spiritual principle is this, that to receive, you must first give. You get what you give. This is just the way it is. There's no other way. Well, let's talk about this issue of being intimate. Intimate is about being close. It's about friendships. It's familiarity. It's a natural feeling experience. It's a knowledge of like when you share with someone and you just know. You can just tell. You can feel it. If in common terms we say, do you just feel me? Do you know what I mean, and do you know how I feel? But do we have this level of trust in our spiritual principles? Because we should, because they never fail. They work all the time. So I have 3 points this morning. 1, mindset. 2, barriers. 3, practice. Don't you wish we could get out of practice? See, the thing is that I think we all believe that, if we do something wrong, or we do something bad, or we hurt someone, that it's coming back, right? We kind of know, we know it's coming back. That's just the way the world works. We see it from when it happens to other people. When we see bad things happen, we just say, sorry, wow, when that comes back. Okay? Because there's a lot of principle going on there. There's the law of attraction, there's the law of reaping and sowing, there's the law of seed time and harvest, it's the law of karma. It's a busy experience. We just can't avoid it because it happens to be the spiritual principle. But why do we struggle in recognizing that the same principles work for our good? The same principles. The law of attraction, cause and effect, sowing and reaping, all of these work for our good just like they work for the bad. Belief. A belief is all about our consciousness. This is what we believe we know to be true. We can't always tell why we know and we believe, but we just know it to be true. It's like maybe the first time you walked in this room and you just kind of said, God, this feels like home. Never felt like this before. I just know. But see, the issue is that our belief only places limitation on the infinite possibility. See, there is infinite possibility within us all because the flow of the divine spirit moves through us and in us at all times. But it's what we believe that creates the limitation. All of our ability to possess what is possible is based on our belief. It all has to do with mindset, right? A mindset that says it's how you use the belief. Your mindset is how you use what you believe. So do you know the same power is working in your life towards your good? Do you know without question? Is there any unsettling about the situation? The principle works every time. Jesus put it this way, in the same measure that you give, it's returned back to you. It works every time. So all things are possible, right? We quote this frequently. All things are possible, but to the one who believes, it's possible. The believing creates the limitation. See, it's all a personal experience. How we believe creates the limitation. All possibilities are there, but our belief creates the limitation. So we determine how the divine flow manifests in our lives. We have the power. We have the same creative power that created the universe. Yet this power will not violate our choice. It will not overcome our belief. It is our belief, and they can be changed. So yes, if there's any question, or if there's any conflict, or if there is any struggle, there is still opportunity for the divine flow to move through our lives, and that's when we get to practice. Even if you question, you need to acknowledge that it's true, because you know that the divine flow is never exhausted. It is never exhausted. It's the law of giving and receiving. So it's the belief, not the thing that is believed, that has the power. It is the belief, not the thing believed, that has the power. And it's kind of a hard thing to face that, you know, what we believe, you can tell, because it just kind of manifests in our life. Sometimes I just have to recognize, and I feel a little exposed, that if you look at my life, you kind of know what I believe. Everyone knows based on how our lives manifest. Now, money is an important thing to us, right? It has a spirit of its own. It's alive. There is an energy there. And let me tell you how I know there's an energy. If I had $100 in my hand right now, and I ripped them in half, you would all feel it. Yeah, you would. And I almost did it this morning. But I've been looking for the Scotch tape before I got off the platform. See, we believe that this piece of paper has value. The entire value of currency, we have determined that we believe collectively that it has value. So prosperity and abundance, you know, these are words we just kind of throw around, right? But we have to necessarily understand what they believe. Prosperity has to do with the outcome. It has to do how things manifest in our lives. The principle is abundance. The overflowing ability that resides within us all is the principle. It's our cup that runs over. It's inexhaustible. That is the principle. So if it's not principle, right, it is subject to change, all based on what we believe. So I guess I have to ask myself the question, am I a prosperity preacher or an abundance preacher? I am guilty of both, because I know that consciousness of abundance yields prosperity. That is the way it works. It is a cause and effect relationship. The cause is abundance, the effect is prosperity. And look, it means more than just money to us. It means every aspect of our life. Remember, and everything that you do will prosper. Mindset. Ace Bowers writes the book, The Mindset. My journey from being a janitor to a millionaire in 5 years. 5 years. He grew up in Mountain View, California, but he grew up poor. And he did everything in his power to hide it. Both of his parents drank pretty heavily. There was very little money. Father lost his job. And what do you think happened? They just increased the anxiety and the attention in their home, and it was literally violent. But it was his mother that was the most violent. She abused the husband. Now, Ace didn't understand the background here, that his mother had been sexually abused by her own father, and her husband, Ace's father, rescued her at 15 from being abused by him. So his father drank simply because he was trying to get rid of and treat his own anxiety. The parents fight. The brother is in and out of jail for 20 years. Every extra dollar goes toward getting this guy out of jail. Ace is depressed, massively overweight, with an anxiety disorder. By the age of 19, he is working for an insurance broker, and he thinks, well, maybe I should just become an insurance broker because I need my life to improve. But he flunks the test multiple times. He gets frustrated and he quits, but he has credit cards. So he lives on his credit cards and gets in debt. He goes to his aunt's house in Oregon, because you get out of California, right? If you're in debt, you go to Oregon. And he stays in his aunt's home, and he decides that to make extra money, he is going to rent a room. So he rents a room out to a graduate student who's a Japanese student, a young woman. Now you can imagine Ace's mindset. He is in debt. His entire experience has been negative from his perspective. He and the girl go out, and guess what happens? She gets pregnant. Have we all read the book? We've all heard it, right? 22 and pregnant. On my last trip to Europe, I sailed down the Danube. The Danube touches 10 countries. It flows from Germany all the way to the Black Sea. There are areas, though, where the current gets narrow or it gets shallow. And boats cannot freely flow through this experience because it is too narrow or too shallow. That channel has to be created and the barrier overcome. So they elevate the boats in a lot to get them to the next point, to overcome the barrier. See, we are channels of God. God does for us what God does through us. All possibilities are there. All possibilities exist in this waterway. All commerce for this community, travel, drinking water, the entire economics of this particular community is based on the Danube. But they have to overcome the barriers to get it to work for them. We are the channels of God. But if we have barriers, we're going to have to overcome them. So, we're involved in the experience. We are involved in what happens. We're involved in our personal deliverance and our freedom. God involves us in it. It doesn't happen without us. We are involved in it. And so faith without works is dead, right? Treat and move your feet. But we have to overcome these experiences and our beliefs. Mindset to removing barriers. There are points of this channel that become narrow and shallow. Again, they elevate the boat, and the boat actually goes in a lock, and it goes beyond the narrow area. We have to understand that our belief at times is too narrow and too shallow. It restricts the infinite possibilities that exist within us all, because it's our belief that creates the limitation. So to overcome these experiences, we have to figure out how to move the barrier. The flow is how commerce is created. It is currency. It is the current. It is the flow. They generate power from the Danube. It's the place of recreation. A mindset, removing barriers, practice. We are all channels of God, and everything in our experience is all about consciousness. Because everything is possible, but what we manifest is based on our consciousness, what we believe and what we understand. See, what we believe limits us, right? But the eternal flow is always there. The abundance is the principle. It is inexhaustible. It is always there. We just have to change how we believe. So, is it different giving here? I think it's different giving here. There are many, many charities that do wonderful things, and we may feel good about contributing to them. I do it myself. But what is different about contributing here? We teach spiritual principles or the abundant life. That is what differs and distinguishes us from another charity. We are different. This is the beloved community. We are out of every tribe and nation. Jesus gave the illustration about a table that was set and everyone was invited. So, why do you give to CSA? See, many people would say that the principles taught at CSA saved their lives. Yes, I said saved. Why? Because being saved is about being safe. And you are safe to be your individual incarnation here. We teach spiritual principles, amen. We feed on spiritual food. See, what the spiritual food makes sure that we are sane. So being here is about being saved and sane. Now, here's the deal. I'm not a finished product yet. There's still more to happen. But I am saying, because you don't know where I started, can the church say amen? And I don't know where you started either. So what's so different about here? 20 years ago, Reverend Dr. Georgia had a vision for a place that was diverse and a caring community. Long before other people created it. Long before other people thought about it. Because the church growth movement said, the world is getting brown, and since the world is getting brown and diversity is becoming more and more of an issue, you better learn how to embrace other people. It was a growth tactic in many communities. Here, it is the essence of who we are. Have you looked at this room to determine the diversity in this community? Every economic situation, ethnic situation, every religious idea you can come up with, every social experience, political, yes, we are not all in the same place politically. All of our backgrounds are different. This is a diverse and caring community, and no one is restricted from participating actively. The spiritual principle said, give as you are prospered. How are we to give? As we are prospered. And see, the benefit here is what God requires of us or provides for us. He also God provides for us for it to happen. We have all the power. We have the power to bless ourselves. Thank you for your faithfulness to this community. As a board member and as a staff minister, I am overwhelmed at your faithfulness to this community because you love it. And I thank you for that. But giving is not a one-way experience. The giver is blessed in the action. It is the basis of the abundant flow in your life and prosperity. Now, the issue here is if you ever walk away from the practice, you know, the thing is once you know the practice and you know better, you're supposed to walk in. So, as we approach this year's stewardship, I ask you to consider that you at least keep your pledge what it was for this year. And as God has prospered you, it may be the opportunity for you to increase it. These are only guidelines, just a few guidelines. If we were selling subscriptions and you had to pay for your seat, and by the way, in the Americas in church history, you actually rented a pew. You saw the Free Will Baptists and the Free Methodists is because the pews didn't cost. Okay? We're not going to pick it up. But if you were, it would cost you $40 a week. We only operate off of gifts and giving. We have absolutely nothing to sell. So the big debate, right, is on the issue of tithing. This is when people squirm and people have their own position and they have decided what it means and what they're going to do. But sorry to tell you, but I'm happy too, that it's a spiritual principle. And it works every time. You have to get there. It takes faith. And hopefully when you do it, you are tithing cheerfully. Because there's nothing like an ungrateful giver. For thousands of years, tithing has been the principle that has established the religious community long before Israel formed. It has always been the way that ministries have been funded. So people say, well, should I tithe off of net or gross? And my response is do you want to be blessed and your increase to come off of your gross or your net? You choose. But consider this. Consider the issue. Look at the principle of 10%. 10% means we're all the same. If you give $1 million and I give 100, but it happens to be 10% of our earnings, we are the same because both of us gave the 10%. There's a really interesting level playing field that is created by tithing. So the principle works, and it works every time. Now, I'm sure this makes certain people uncomfortable. I wish I could say that it makes me uncomfortable to talk about it, but it doesn't. Because it's played itself out in my entire life. My entire life. Every blessing I have, I am extremely confident. It is not because I'm smart. It is not because I'm intelligent. And it's certainly not because I'm lucky. It is because the abundance that I was taught has played itself out in my life. And I have my level of prosperity based on my level of giving. It's the same for us all. So I have to tell you the truth. It is a principle, and I have to tell you. Now, God is not mad if you don't tithe. God does not need our money. Doesn't use it, okay? We need the discipline of tithing for our individual benefit as a spiritual discipline. Now, my teaching kind of weighs this out and says, I give 10%, I save 10%, and then the rest I live on. Because somehow or another, with a person like me, I have to make sure I get something out of it that I'm in control of. But here's the issue. The prosperity comes. So if there is some discomfort, just acknowledge it and just know it's a barrier. It's a condition that you can overcome. It may be narrow or it may be shallow, but you can create, by changing your belief, the divine flow. Trusting and knowing that principle works every time. So to move from trying to make prosperity in our lives and trying to figure out the next thing that we can do to kind of make it, the abundance consciousness is actually what generates the prosperity. So let the idea of money go and work on our consciousness of abundance. Because there is the power of the divine source. Because God gives us the ability to create wealth. So, back to Ace. Ace recovers from his situation. Remember, he is now living with his parents, the place that he wanted to be delivered from, with his new wife from Japan, who's a graduate student, and they have a new baby. But he decides to give his love to his wife and his child. Now, he changes his mind, and he says it was God's blessing that made the difference. So, to get intimate with the infinite, it is about changing our minds and living in the flow from abundant consciousness to prosperity. The principle works every time. So what Ace did was, he had a job as a security guard, $15 an hour, and he started investing on $15 an hour. Then, on the weekends, he flipped cars. He bought cars, repaired them, sold them, and he did the same thing with homes. It didn't take him very long before he had paid off his debt. Now remember, the issue of prosperity extends beyond money. There was a supervisor at the company where he was a security guard who just liked him, right? You can't understand why, but I just like you. Anybody ever told you that? I don't know why. But I just like him. I always want to worry about that. But Nonetheless, he gets an entry-level position in quality control. He goes to school at night, never gets a degree, but he trains to become a quality control person. So he ends up at Google, he ends up at Yahoo. From his $15 an hour, he is in the process of moving forward. He was just committed, he changed his mind. But he recognized his gift. Here was his gift. He said, I had humble intelligence. His humble intelligence was, I'm around all kinds of people, and they are really brilliant, but they just don't know how to get along with each other. I can read people because I had to read my parents to know how my night was going to go. So he turned his experience that he had as a child that was extremely unpleasant for him into how he made his first million. He borrowed money from his in-laws, bought his first home, paid for it, sold it, bought a bigger one, continued to invest, and by 28, 5 years after being a janitor, he was worth $1 million. No magic, no inheritance, he just changed his mindset. By the time he was 32, he was worth $2 million. So if Ace can change with all of his history, why can't we? Everything is impossible, and we can change our minds about abundance and prosperity. The principle always works. Why do we support this place? Because we teach principles that transform lives. We will never get away from that. So how? How do we change our mindset? First of all, you have to make a decision before you feel like it. It always starts with making a decision. I wish I could tell you, if you just do this, you will feel like it'll work. Most of the time, you're going to have to make that decision for yourself that you want the evidence in your life to change, and you have to just change your mind. And you do it on faith, because the faith is actually the substance and the evidence of what's going on in your life. We act on it. It is fundamental. So to get intimate with the infinite is about living in the consciousness and the flow of God. And it's all about consciousness. So if you don't believe change is possible and impossible things can go on, did you drive here? I think driving is a miraculous thing. Your hands and your arm and your neck and you're texting and on the phone, and everybody else is doing it around you, and we are all going 70, sometimes 80. I've looked down at 90. Yeah, I have. And guess what? We don't hit each other. Why? Because we follow the principles. The same is true here. If you follow the principles, we can all live in prosperity from the spirit of abundance. And so it is.